Hey, I'm here. Uh, this is an update. This is Monday, April the 13th. Last update video, other than shorts, that I did was on Saturday the 4th. Uh, Apologize now if I start coughing. I've had an itchy throat for all that stuff, dried stuff's coming up. Let's see. Last week I had my swallow test. Um, that was, I want to say it was on Tuesday, which would have been 8th, I think. Yeah, let me get my handy dandy calendar. See, I got my calendar. I don't know if I can see that. The 7th, Tuesday the 7th, was my hearing, excuse me, was my swallow test. Uh, my nose wouldn't run on me. Uh, Went in for that. Got there. Excuse me. This whole rehabilitation facility I didn't know existed. They do occupational therapy, physical therapy, do all sorts of stuff there, and do adult speech therapy and swallow testing. Saw the uh, speech therapist and run into a little girl that we had seen while we were in the hospital. I can't remember her name, but she's a student training to be a speech therapist. And when the hubby told me who she was, it didn't click at first. He said, "She's the one that came in with the other little girl. She's the one that, you let take the valve off and put it back on. You trach." I said, "That was her?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, okay, I remember her now." Because she was just like a little kid who learned how to do so, because nobody else had let her do it. She had practiced on, trachs, but not on with somebody that has one. And I guess you hear the kitty cat gonna be crying for a while. But let me let the kitty cat out. I'll pause this. All right, I'm back, y'all. But anyway, I had that done. They taught me some uh, exercises to do for my swallowing, for my throat, to keep the muscles active. And I don't know if you can see what that says up there, but these are the different uh, swallowing exercises. Trying to go slow as we go up in case y'all want to look at them and read. So to do them. And I try to do them in sets of 10. And I do them throughout the day. The one about doing the E, I tend to do that while I'm in the bathroom, so I don't bother the hubby. And if y'all are wondering where he's at, because you don't hear him, he's laying down. He's tired. He didn't get a great lot of sleep last night, and I'll go into why on that. But we had the speech test, and she told me, uh, the little doctor there told me to wait until my last week of radiation treatment or the week or two after, depending on how I feel. And then call her and set up an appointment, and then we will start speech therapy and swallow therapy. And they will do the swallow test on me again because they have the baseline, and then they'll get started with seeing what the new one looks like after everything's said and done. Then Thursday, I went to the doctor at Tiger Creek I had to get some of my prescriptions refilled. Y'all, I've done everything I can to get the assistance I need. I do have assistance on my QuickPen Humalog. I'll be getting those in from Eli Lilly Company. So those won't cost me anything. Praise the Lord on that. But my blood pressure medication and my strips and lancets and my needles for my QuickPen, those all I have to pay for, which that's okay. Um, I've got the card I can put them on for that, and we make monthly payments on that card anyway. Might as well go ahead and use it. I almost had it paid off, but right now this is more important. And then Friday morning, well, Friday we pretty much stayed at home. I think I don't remember going anywhere. We did my bolus and I ate and everything. And then Saturday, um, I had ordered a binder. I went to pick up my prescriptions Friday. That's what it was. Went and picked them up, and I talked to him about getting a binder to help hold my feeding tube to keep it from jangling all over the place. So Saturday, we slept late. We were going to get up early, but we ended up sleeping late. Got up. Uh, I didn't do a bolus Saturday, um, but did get the binder. Um, and then pretty much rested all day Saturday after that, between playing on the phones, and watching videos, and then went to bed. Got up Sunday, played my trach, checked my blood sugar, took my insulin. And I'm telling y'all this simply because it will explain some things that happened later in the day. Then I went to do the feeding tube. And Piggy was fixing to do the first flush. I felt really sharp pain. And then water started coming out from around the tube area. Wasn't a great lot, but it felt like a great lot because he had barely pushed. And I told myself something's wrong. There's too much pain. Water should not be coming out from around the tube area. We talked about it, and I was going to wait and contact the doctor. And I told myself, well, I said, they told me if anything happened or if I felt something was wrong with the feeding tube, I needed to go to the emergency room and have it checked. Good thing I did. We got to the emergency room. They did x-rays, and the doctor thought there was a blockage, so they were going to take it out and put a new one in. And they took it out, getting ready to put a new feeding tube in. Now, taking account, I had had my insulin that morning. I'd had nothing to eat all day up to this point. Had nothing to drink other than a little bit of a sip of drink, soda, diet soda, when I got up. And I had no other medication or anything like that because I did not know what they were going to do at the ER. I didn't know if I would have to have surgery. I didn't know, if they would need me to be basically on a fasting schedule. So I told them when I got there, I said, the only thing I have had is my insulin. I said, I was getting ready to do my feeding tube. And the instructions on it is to take my insulin prior to eating. Take my blood sugar, take my insulin, and then eat. Okay. So they checked my insulin, and it was 77. Now I had checked it here at the house, and it was 140 something. Okay. And then they checked it that first time, it was 77. They checked it again, and it was 61. And now this is why they're getting uh, dextrose for me, which is basically the sugar. And they had to put a IV in and get that. So there's a lot I'm having to wait on while they're trying to get this done. So they checked my sugar again, and it was 61. So it was dropping. They finally got the dextrose in, and they checked my sugar about an hour later, and it was, I want to say, 107, 110, 115. It was somewhere in the 100s. It was lower 100s, but it was still. I think it was either 110 or 115, and then the next time they checked it, it was 107, and then it had went back up right before I left to come home. Now I had not had any pain medication, and I'm hurting because of all this that's going on. I don't know what's going on. I just know that there's something wrong, and I'm hurting. Dr. Atherton, he was the main church. There was another doctor that I saw. I think she's a PA. Her name is Lucy. She did an excellent job. But what was going on was pretty much outside of her scope as far as with the feeding tube. So Dr. Atherton came in and he checked me. He was basically the doctor in charge of the ER. And he took my old feeding tube out. And then he tried to put a new feeding tube in. And he said, I don't understand what's going on. He said, it should just go straight down in that hole. And it went in the hole through the skin. But he talked to the surgeon, was explaining what was going on. And they did a contrast x-ray where they flush contrast through the feeding tube to make sure it's placed right. And the gauze they had put around the feeding tube site basically soaked into the gauze. The contrast did. And it came out the hole. And they found out that the feeding tube was not going into my stomach. And the only thing that the surgeon that he talked to could surmise was that sometime Friday, after I did my bolus, the feeding tube popped out of my stomach, but it stayed under the skin, which is extremely rare. Usually when it comes out all the way. Okay. So Dr. Atherton, when he was going to change the feeding tube, he had another PA there, a doctor there. She was a student doctor, resident, and then he had Lucy come in because they had never seen a feeding tube changed out in the ER, and they were going to learn. Well, they learned, but it wasn't what he was teaching. They learned that sometimes there's things going on that you have no control over, and that nobody knows what's going on until you run some tests. And what had happened, like I said, is that the feeding tube popped out of my stomach, and it had to have been on Friday because it had plenty of time to heal. The hole that it went in healed up, so you wouldn't get nothing back in there. And the feeding tube he tried to put back in there wasn't going to go in there, couldn't get through the hole. So they told me I had to call the surgery center, get in touch with him, and set up to go in and have this fixed through endoscopy. Well, they told me to call the surgery. And surgeon, when I called them, called the general surgery, um, I told them what I was told, that it could be fixed endoscopically. She said, well, if it can be done that way, she said, let me call the practitioner, the ones that ordered this to be done, and speak with them. And she did. And so actually, the gastroenterologist will be doing it endoscopically. So Caitlin with the gastroenterology center for Dr. Uh, Schuster works. He's my gastroenterologist, Dr. Schuster. Um, Caitlin told me that since she had just seen me, not even a month ago, that instead of me coming into the office, instead of set up an appointment, come to the office, for them to schedule the surgery or the endoscopy to put this in. Why didn't she get in touch with the scheduler? Go ahead and just have them schedule it. And that way, skip a step. I don't have to try to keep going through different phases because I have so many appointments set up. Good deal. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I have to be at the center to have the endoscopy done, and where they'll put the new PEG tube in. And it is PEG, PEG tube. So I've got that taken care of for tomorrow. So having that done, I had to set up my radiation treatment to where I could either go early before or late afternoon because I didn't know what time I was going to get out from having this done. So I go tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to have my radiation treatment done. Okay. All right. That's caught up to yesterday, which was Sunday. Today is Monday, the 13th. Today was my first chemo treatment and my first radiation. And we got there around 7:30. We had to sit in the lobby and waited till about, I want to say 7:45, 7:48, something like that. And then they got me signed in and went upstairs. And I think I've told y'all about the building there at People's Cancer Institute. When you first go in, you're on the second floor. The basement is the first floor because there's two different parking areas. So the Judd Radiation Center, technically the basement is on the first floor. Then you have the main area where you go in that has the lobby and the check-in area and the little bistro at the very end and the grand piano when you first walk in the door and all that. Okay, that's the second floor. That's where I went to check in. I got my papers, went to the elevators, and went up to the third floor. Gave them my papers when I got off the elevator there to check in, and then went around the corner and sat down until they called me. Well, right around 8 o'clock, there was one of the nurses from the infusion center came out, and she was talking to everybody because she knew everybody that was sitting out there, except for me because I was the newbie. And she looked at me. She said, "Miss Sanford?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, she gave me her name, and I can't remember it. She said, "I'm your nurse today." I said, "Okay." So I gave her my paper things. And what it is, it's little stickers with my name and date of birth and my patient number on it so that they can scan everything. It's got a little barcode on it. And she took me on to the back, into the infusion center. And now it's nice in there. That little chair that I sat in, it's a recliner, but it's got little buttons on it that right beside you. You don't have to pull nothing, push nothing. Those little buttons are, up and down. Up and down. And then they have two other little buttons that says back and seat. And they're warmers. If you want your back warmed or your seat warm, mash that little button, hold it a second until it turns color. Then if you want it a little bit warmer, mash it again, it turns another color. And then when you get ready to turn it off, you hold it and it'll go off. But that's nice. It's a nice setup in there. But because it was my first one and I had to have blood work drawn, they drew my blood work and I had to sit and wait almost an hour for results from my blood work to come back. And my magnesium was low, so they had to give me magnesium. Uh, but they had to give me, oh, I had so many different things going through, y'all. I had hydration going through. I had nausea, two different nausea medications went through. The Zofran they gave me had a steroid in it. And then, let's see, they gave me another one. I can't remember what it was. But I had so many different ones. And finally, around, I want to say 11:30, 11:40, they started giving me the actual um, chemotherapy medication. The well, whatever it was. I've said what it is before, cisplatin, something like that. And after that, they had to give me another medication, and then they gave me the magnesium and another medication. And I finally got out of there a little after 2. And my appointment with radiology was supposed to be there at 2:30, and my actual appointment was 2:45. So I made it down there plenty of time. And they fed us. I didn't eat breakfast because breakfast was cereal and a muffin, and I had a bowl of cereal here. So we went through and I got snacks and didn't eat all of my snack. I took a bite of it and gave the rest of it to the hubby and got him Rice Krispie treat out of there. And then they come through with a couple hours later, come through with snacks again, and I got some peanut butter crackers, thinking maybe I'll try it, and a Rice Krispie treat. And I took a bite of the Rice Krispie treat and thought I had nothing but a mouthful of sugar. Set that aside. I had got a Sprite Zero to go with that. I had my water glass, y'all, and I have drank one and a half of these. Almost, well, it's probably about right here now. So I drank a full one of these, and then I drank the rest of this when I got home because I had it full. I refilled it before I left the infusion center. Uh, so I've done good. I drank a lot of water today. And with all the fluids they were putting through, the bathroom there became my friend. I knew where both of them were by the time I left. And I found out where I've got to go tomorrow to have a peg tube replacement, big tube replaced. Uh, it's behind the hospital, and what I thought was the entrance to the cancer place is actually the entrance to the Bradley Gastroenterology Center, where they take care of all that. Like, wow, we know exactly where it's at. Don't have to worry about that. The nurses around the corner from Rosette showed us everything, and then like I said, had all that done, got down to radiology, and they told me to go back. I said, and I told them, I said, before I do, I asked them about scheduling. They said, oh, they do all that back there. So we can see it, but we can't change anything. They have their own schedule. And I said, okay. But I'll let them know what's going on. And I told her, because I knew she would probably relay it to the doctors, make sure that Dr. Nick had that information about the feeding tube. And he could look it up from there. And I went in and I asked him about the appointment, told him what was going on, to work, trying to get appointments where I could work around everything I've already got scheduled. And they're really helpful with that. They've done that. But then I sat down on the table, turned around, lay down, and got my head in my little thing they had fixed to the back of my head. And they put my mask thing on. And where it was nice and warm that first day, had it thing fixed, and I didn't mind it. Today it was a little hard, felt like metal, but it's plastic, and it felt a little tight, but I'll get used to it. But I think the name Martin told me, he said, we're going to take a picture, take an imaging, and then the doctor's going to come look at it, and then we'll get started. And he said it may take a few minutes. I was sitting there with my eyes closed, hard to keep them open with that mesh thing over it. I'd open one eye, and I'd see a green light up above me. I opened the other eye, saw a green light up above me. Okay, closed my eyes, heard some noises. And then I looked up, and this thing above me was rotating, and I could see a light. I was angled this way to the left side. I could see a light. Okay, closed my eyes, and I heard something. I looked up. It was moving to the right side. And I saw a light from the right side. Okay, closed my eyes. And the next thing I know, I feel tugging on the mask. That it was still attached, but to the bolted in. But I felt tugging, and they told me, I said, "Don't worry," I said, "we're just readjusting some the tape on here, okay, because they have markings on the tape." And I thought they were going to do another round, and then they start undoing the mask and start taking it off. They said, "We're through with this round." I said, "What?" Because it didn't feel like I'd been in there just a few seconds, I mean, not even 5 minutes, but I guess it was closer to 10. It didn't feel like it to me. But they helped me up, and that's something they do. They help me down and they help me up. I don't have to worry about stressing my stomach, trying to push anything. They grab me, set me up. Um, and then uh, I didn't have my top on here. I had a hospital gown on. I have another shirt that I wear over this when I go to the infusion center. This is my infusion shirt now because easy access to my port is covered. That's where they took the needle thing out of it. But give them easy access so they don't have to find a lot of material. And anyway, when I go into the radiation, I go back to the women's dressing room and I remove my tops. I put on a hospital gown. I have certain type that I wear. It's a green striped one. Then I get called back. But on Mondays, and Mondays only, unless I request to speak to the nurse, after my radiation treatments, I talk with Dr. Nick and Shelby. She's his PA, I think. She might be his head nurse, I'm not sure. But I talked to both of them on Mondays. And they just told me to grab my clothes and I could get changed in that room when they were done talking to me. It's okay, no problem. So I did that. Got through, and hubby was upset he didn't get to see Dr. Nick and Shelby. He thought I had said I'd seen Dr. Haim. I said no. I said I just saw Dr. Nick and Shelby. Didn't get to see Dr. Haim today. But that's my day so far, my week so far going up. And tomorrow, like I said, I go in, get my radiation done. And once I have all that done, we will leave out and go around the hospital because you have to park in two different areas uh, and go in. And I'll be there early for my appointment at 11 o'clock, to be there at 11 because they said that the procedure will be done at 1. Well, we have been so blessed that when we get places early, that we tend to get done early. So we're going to get everything taken care of on that. Oh, and yeah, I'll tell you this. That $200,000 bill that I told y'all about in one of my other videos, things done been paid because I saw what was owed. Said amount due, which that they do that because they have certain days I think they pay it on. Well, I'm back down to $400 something for what's owed. So the 220 something $1,000 has already been paid. Praise God. And because I ain't no way I could have ever paid that. I still have not received my letter from financial aid, or the financial department, but I have got almost everything taken care of on all that. We've still got a week of stuff going on for us. We've got audiologist Wednesday, radiation all week, and then again I've got lab work on Friday. And then we got the weekend. I'm praying everything goes a whole lot better with this new head tube I'm getting than it did with the old one. Well, I thank y'all for listening. Sorry it took so long. Oh wow, 30 minutes. I'm sorry about that, y'all. I got to talk and tell you what was going on. I need to do more videos instead of waiting a week to have more to do them. Y'all have a great day, great week. I'm going to. Love you.